We've been so used to things around us that we usually don't give much thought to who dreamed them up or why they are the way they are or the ideas for them. This evening in Project 1, the Speech to Inform from the Advanced Communication Series Manual, Speaking to Inform, Lloyd will discuss one of these inventions no one ever thinks about and explain a surprising local connection. Lloyd Smith and What Would We Do Without It?
When we think about the things that affect us every day in life, we tend to think of the big things. We think about Thomas Edison and the electric light bulb. We think about Alexander Graham Bell and the telephone. We think of Philo Farnsworth and television. But you didn't know that television was invented. Don't bet against me on that. There may be a speech in the future. The point is, we tend to think of the big deals, the things that really do have a lot of impact on us, the Wright brothers, Henry Ford, like that. But we don't experience those things every day like we do some other very common inventions. Here is one of them. This is one of those little clippy things that you find on bread sacks. You probably have touched one of these in the last 24 hours, or maybe several of them in the last 24 hours. There are enough of these things made every year that each man, woman, and child on Earth could have a new one. 8 billion of them per year. The interesting thing about it is that there is a local connection. The guy who invented it lived in Yakima. Our story starts in 1952 when a guy named Lloyd Paxton was traveling by air back from an unsuccessful business meeting in the Midwest. He and his father owned a factory in Southern California that built the machines that were used to form and nail together wooden apple boxes. Now, even though Paxton was only in his early 20s, he could see that the era of the wooden apple box was about over. The stiff cardboard boxes were coming on the scene, and they were much, much cheaper to make, much easier to store, less labor intensive, and so on. So Paxton and his father were thinking their business was about to sink out from under them. He had gone to the Midwest in order to look into a new opportunity that he decided wasn't suitable to either one of them. On his way back, he was given a plastic sack of peanuts. They used to give away free food on airplanes. And he only ate about half of it, and then he realized he didn't have any way to close up the little plastic bag so that he could have the rest of the peanuts later. He mulled that over for a little while, and an inspiration struck him. He reached into his wallet, found an expired credit card. He took his pocket knife out of his pocket. They used to let you travel with those too. He carved something that looked pretty much like these things look right now, and he used it to close the plastic bag. And that's where the idea for they're called quick locks, quick lock closures, was developed. When he got home, he and his father designed the machines to make these things. They're made out of plastic. And he discovered that there was something else going on in the fruit industry that he wasn't aware of. The trend was away from small grocery stores towards supermarkets. And it turns out that the supermarkets preferred their produce not in boxes, but in pre-measured plastic sacks. And so there was a gigantic market for something to close those bags. Before these little doohickeys were invented, bags were closed either with a wire tie that's got paper or plastic on it. You've all been familiar with that, and those things break on you. Or with a piece of tape, and once you rip the tape off, then you can't reuse it. And so there was a built-in market for these. They sold almost instantly. Paxton also realized that the center of gravity of the fruit industry was shifting northward. He was in the Central Valley of California, but he transplanted his company to Yakima, right outside of Silo. And that's where he built his first factory and started making these things. He also patented these, luckily, and he patented the machine that makes them and also the machines that automatically stick them on the bags. Being an entrepreneur, he branched out. He realized bakeries use plastic sacks too. So he started marketing to bakeries, and that's where most of them are really used now, not in the fruit industry, but in the baked goods industries and whatnot. Things went really well for Paxton. The company grew and grew and grew and grew. He built another factory in Indiana, and then he had one built in Ireland, one in Canada, one in Australia. And there was only one other company on Earth that makes anything similar to this because of the patents that Paxton tied up. There's a Czechoslovakian company, believe it or not, But Paxton's company, QuickLock, has about 75% of the world market on these things. You might not think you would get rich with these, but he did. He got really, really rich. He was also an interesting guy because he was one of the founders of something called the John Birch Society. If you have enough age to you, you recognize that name. It's an extremely conservative group back, their heyday was back in the 1960s, mid to late 1960s. They ascribed everything bad that was happening to the international communist conspiracy. At one point, they wanted Dwight Eisenhower, President Eisenhower, arrested for treason because they believed he had been secretly trained in Russia during World War II as a communist agent. He apparently did that in his spare time when he was not planning the D-Day invasion or something. Anyway, Paxton donated millions of dollars to the John Birch Society. At one point, he was their national leader. Also, he ran for Congress from the 4th District 4 different times. He didn't make it through the primary 3 of them, got squashed in the general election, and the other one when he did run for Congress. Died in 1975, and that's when things started to get interesting also. His family was pretty patriotic up to the point of paying taxes. And he did not believe, neither he nor his children did not believe that he should have to pay any inheritance tax. That launched a monumental 14-year struggle in tax court because Paxton's attorneys created an incredibly complex system of companies and partnerships and whatnot, and traded the 100 shares of stock in these things back and forth and back and forth and back and forth so that nobody actually owned them. Eventually, Paxton's son, Jerry, took the company over, and that triggered a 10-year battle over who actually owned the patents, because that had got confused in the 14-year tax war over the inheritance tax. Now Paxton's 2 granddaughters run the company. The headquarters is still on 16th Avenue in Yakima. It makes billions of these things per year. And you now know something you probably didn't know when you came in here.
Thank you, Lloyd. Very informative. Timer, can we please have 1 minute? Write down our notes and comments.
Enjoy this.
Local guy. Got rich with that.